I've got a few things I want to ask you about, and then I always like to field some fan questions before I talk to artists just to kind of get that insight there as well. So I've got some of those prepped for you. I picked out the nice ones, don't worry. Nothing too scary
I was
there.
gonna say that I was gonna say that could be dangerous territory, but if you fielded the questions, I trust you.
I know I got rid of all the inappropriate ones, all the irrelevant ones. We're good to go.
Well, all right.
Okay, so you've got your new album, Life Forms, out, just dropped a couple of weeks ago, so it's brand new, super fresh. And from what I've seen, the response has been really overwhelmingly positive. I really personally enjoyed it as well. But what I want to know is how the writing process for this one differed in light of like the pandemic and writing things in that way. Did things change like logistically? Were there different themes involved? How did that go for you?
Very good question. The thing is that the lockdown or quarantine didn't really change the way the album was written because the biggest thing that has changed with how Tom and I write songs now is that I live in LA and Tom still lives in San Diego.
Got it.
So basically, what happens now is Tom and Aaron, who is the producer as well as my brother, they'll get together in San Diego because that's where they both live. They'll kind of hash out material. Tom will bring his ideas to the table. He will get everything out of his head. Aaron will help get all of that onto the computer. They'll kind of play with things around for a bit. Once they've gotten it to a point where they feel good about it, it then gets sent to me.
Got it.
And in most cases, the song is very fully realized, but it's incomplete, usually missing a bridge. There's some production that's left open for me to experiment with. There are usually no harmonies on it, so I then go and add all that stuff. And then any sort of electronics or programming that was done in the demo phase gets redone by me.
Sure.
And once I'm done throwing all of my stuff in the kitchen sink onto it, I then throw it back to them. They pick everything that they like. I then get it back, and then that's kind of just how it goes. And it really only takes a couple of sends back and forth before we go, okay, this is the song. And then we kind of shelve it until it's time to properly record it. And by that, I mean doing real drums, because at my studio, I just have a little electronic drum kit that's linked up to my computer for writing purposes or programming. But yeah, we'll then go and record everything properly, and that's what ends up on the album. So not much has changed in terms of quarantine. We just saw each other even less, but that's that.
Yeah, but you were in a way more prepared than maybe some other bands would have been because you were kind of used to writing at a distance and you had that process
Mm.
already worked out. Pretty cool.
Definitely. And what is really convenient, I mean, there's great software now where somebody can basically be streaming the live audio from their computer as they're mixing it to somebody else.
Oh, wow.
So while they're making tweaks in the studio, I can hear it if I need to, or if I'm recording, say, synths and stuff, because I have a lot of toys at my studio that they don't have down in San Diego, I can broadcast, they can hear the sounds that I'm doing, and then get the thumbs up, record it, and it's very, very in the moment, surprisingly enough.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So tour kicked off for you yesterday. It's been a while. How did it feel to be back?
Feels really good, I have to say. I don't know if there's a slightly greater appreciation for playing live because we haven't been able to do it for what feels like eternity. But it's really good. You know, being on stage has always been very comfortable for me. The only thing I can say is that when we're not on stage, or say the odd occasion where people might be waiting by the bus, or somebody passes you on the street walking to somewhere and they come up to you, you know, I hate being rude and
Yeah.
not signing or taking photos or something, but that's when you are then very quickly reminded of like, wait a second, we're still not out of the clear.
Yeah.
But, you know, wash my hands a lot. What can I say?
You gotta. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
important. But that's good. I know like from a fan perspective too, and someone who just works in the music industry in like journalism and stuff, it's been really emotional to be back. So I can't imagine it being, your whole career and finally just having that back again. So very, very cool.
Yeah, and what was crazy for me personally is that the when the pandemic hit, I was pretty much slated to have my busiest year yet, and the fact that it went from everything to nothing. I mean, obviously it was disappointing, but it wasn't one of those things that I got down about because it's like, hey, this is what everybody's going through.
Yep.
And I really just made a conscious effort to make the most out of all this time that I inherited because I can't remember the last time I didn't have some type of schedule or some type of deadline. So, I hate to say that I enjoyed it a bit, but being introverted and highly motivated to do stuff on my own time, I really made the most out of it.
Yeah. Something in the universe said you needed that break,
Yeah.
I guess.
It was all for me. All
It
for me.
was all for you, but now
Yeah.
we're back. Are there any, just kind of going back to the live performance aspect of it, are there any songs that you as a band really like and want to play live, but can't because you found that they don't translate well to a live audience?
Definitely. And I would say that might be more so from earlier material. It's hard to say because when you don't have that much of a back catalog, so now I'm talking about before I joined the band, which was in 2011 or 12, but you really have to play most of what you've recorded when you have one, two albums out. When I joined, the third album had just come out, so that was probably the first time the band really had the ability to be picky and choosy. You obviously have to play the singles that people came to hear and see,
Yep.
but you add two more albums on top of that and a couple of EPs. I mean, we're talking 5 albums, a few EPs. There's a lot of material that you can kind of get overly comfortable and be like, oh, I don't know how that one's going to turn out live. Why don't we play that one? But in all the new material that we've played from the latest album, it has all gone quite smoothly. We have made decisions to say, you know what, why don't we leave that one for another tour because we're already playing 5 new songs or whatever it may be. But and don't quote me on that because I could be wrong.
I'll count on Friday.
I haven't counted, but yeah. Then there are songs like we started playing Automatic during the tour. We didn't rehearse it once at rehearsals, go figure, which is not surprising. But that went way smoother than anybody could have anticipated, and it's a really good, simple song. But most times, and I was just commenting about this the other day, anytime we play something new, you see that glimmer of possibility from the first kind of rusty, sloppy run through, and you go, okay, play this a few more times and it's gonna feel good. Automatic was pretty instantaneous, and every time we've played it since then, it's just felt really good and as if we have been rehearsing it for a while. So
Awesome.
sometimes it's just easier than others, but it's not like we're playing Bohemian Rhapsody or anything.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Very fair. Yeah, I always wonder about the curation of set lists and the balance. And I'm sure, like to your point, the more albums you have, the harder it is to please all the fans. And there's a wide range of fans there too.
Yeah.
I get it.
And I don't get involved. That's all time.
Oh, you stay out of it.
It's like, oh yeah, hey, you decide what songs you want to play. I'll make sure they're good, and we're good to play them, and that's that.
Probably the best approach, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. I stay out of everything that I can. I like to choose my battles.
There you go. Yeah, you got to be precious with your energy. I totally get it. So just kind of talking about fans, I do see that you also recently introduced like a fan community, the Empire Club. How is that going? What's it like to connect with fans in that way?
It's been going well. We haven't been able to do like meet and greets for obvious reasons, but we have been doing these sort of sound check parties where groups of people get to come in and watch us fumble through a few songs and make sure everything's working. But aside from that, before the tour started, we each did something. So, for example, I at one point got into a sort of like, not message board, but kind of like a live stream like this, but I saw what everyone was asking in
Oh
terms of
yeah.
questions. And I just talked to people from all over the world for about an hour. It was a technological failure at the beginning, which was very embarrassing because, I pride myself on being pretty tech savvy, but it was like 10 minutes of like, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
No, it makes
But
it more
I
authentic,
really,
I guess.
I blame the platform because I know what I'm doing clearly. You can hear me, I can hear you. We're recording this. So, I don't know. But yeah, and other people in the band have done other things. I'm sure they've done that as well. But everyone just kind of figures out what they're comfortable doing and they do it. So yeah. But I know they also got different, probably got different forms of the album or something. Once again,
Yeah.
don't quote me on that because I'm not sure, but I know there's something special for them in that department. Maybe getting songs earlier than the rest. So yeah.
Yeah. In terms of like the live streams and the Q&As and things like that, so like setting your personal troubles with the platform aside, is that
Mm.
something that you plan to continue doing in the future now that live music is more accessible, or was that more a response to just not being able to connect in the way that you wanted to?
No, I think it's a great thing to do regardless. I mean, for the last couple of months leading up to the tour, I was doing something on my own accord called Whiskey Wednesday, where I would just go live on
Cool.
Instagram, drinking a different whiskey every week and just talking to people. And it's fun and people enjoy it. But I just think it's a great way to talk to people, and it also makes people feel good that they can be in direct contact with a musician that they enjoy or talk to someone who's a part of a band they like, and it's fun. So, and I can talk about myself all day long, so it's no problem for me.
Do you have a favorite whiskey that was featured on one of those Whiskey Wednesdays?
I did like an Aberfeldy, which is one that I hadn't tried up until then. Unfortunately, I had to stop doing it because I couldn't commit to doing it every Wednesday because as it is, I don't know what day it is right now. Today, I have no idea. There's this weird thing that once you play your first show, reality ceases to exist and it becomes a series of get off the bus, waste a day, play a show, which is what it's all about, and you get back on the bus and you do it all again the next day, and you never know what day it is. At least I don't.
Well,
What
I'll
day
give
is
you
it?
a hint. You should be having whiskey today. I'll leave it at that.
It's a little early, but you know what? And that's another thing. I don't want to sit there drinking whiskey and then being like, okay, I gotta go, guys, but gotta go play a show. But thanks for the hint. I appreciate it. Very
Yeah,
subtle.
you betcha. You betcha.
Yeah.
Okay, I know you've got to get back to the tour and prepping for the day, so I'll jump into the fan questions real quick and
Go for it. Yeah, I got
take
time.
some time there. So, a lot of these were fielded from Reddit. We've got a lot of really committed Reddit users. So, Skate144 wants to know why you chose to join Angels and Airwaves in the first place. So, just kind of knowing that you've got a background of being involved in a lot of different groups, what drew you to this project and what makes it special?
Tom asked me really nicely. No, I'm kidding. Okay, no, basically, it was at a time where I had the time to do it. I think it was a great sort of stars aligning situation. I mean, Tom and I are both from San Diego, so we have mutual friends, mutual associates, if you will. And at a time when the original Angels and Airwaves drummer was no longer with the group for one reason or another, Tom and I just got on the phone together and spoke. And I suppose what was interesting about me to him at the time is that he was looking for somebody to be more collaborative than just playing drums. I think he'd just gotten to a point where he maybe wanted to spread his wings a little bit and try expanding upon the music. And my being a multi-instrumentalist and having solo music where I wrote, played, and sang everything was very appealing to him. So everything just kind of lined up. We're both from San Diego. We know some of the same people. He was looking for more than just a drummer, and I had the time to do it. So I'm glad it all worked out that way.
Cool. Well, the fans are too. Um,
Great, thank you.
yes, we've also seen in the past that Angels and Airwaves has been referred to as a project instead of just a band. You know, it's more than a band. Where do you think it has evolved in terms of like when you first started with it and where you are now?
Well, what's interesting, crazy, and impressive about that is that there are things that I heard Tom talk about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, that are are starting to see the light of day and have been coming to fruition over the last few years.
Wow.
So, what may seem like a far-fetched idea or something that's very difficult to pull off, regardless of how long it may have taken, he's doing it all. So, I obviously take no credit for that, but Tom is great at pursuing multiple projects, but somehow making it feel like it's a part of a whole world. So there's definitely a lot of stuff to dive into if you want to get into that rabbit hole.
Sure. Um,
I just focus on the music personally.
then I can ask some more music questions that are a little bit easier for you to answer. During the recording of Life Forms, now I know that you mentioned that you're not really as involved in that initial process. It kind of gets into you later, but what song on the record changed the most from conception to the final project?
Probably No More Guns.
Oh,
That
that's my favorite
one.
one.
Oh, good, good, good. Yeah, it's funny. That song initially sounded very Monkees, right?
Really?
And yes, and not saying anything about the Monkees here, but I was like, it was really close to something, and some people feel a little more sensitively to that than others. I am very sensitive to that, where I'm like, we can't do that. It sounds too. We got to figure it out. And really, what's most important with Tom when it comes to writing is that he needs to feel comfortable writing a melody over something and melodically inspired, because that's the most important part of the song. So once he's gotten that out, I can then take what's beneath it and do what needs to be done. In this instance, I had to make it sound less like the Monkees.
Yep.
So I was thinking, what can I do to this given the tempo? So, and I'm not anti the Who. I'm just not a huge Who fan, but I'm like, I can see this being successfully pushed into that direction, at least from a sort of definitely a bass playing, because it's very bass driven. So that's what I did with that. I took it from the Monkees to the Who, and then Tom punked it up past that, and it was very different from its initial idea. Musically, the melodies were all there, and that's what Tom wanted to write. But I politely put my foot down. I'm like, we got to do something else. I got to figure it out. But there's an instance of I should have chosen a battle that I did not. When we put out Euphoria, people kept honing into that damn synth sound when the band kicks in. They're like, this sounds like Rush. And it's like, it doesn't, but it's the same sound, and Tom loves that sound. So I'm like, there's a whole galaxy of synth sounds.
Yes.
We can find another one. He's like, no, that one's rad. And I'm like, it was also rad in 1980 when it opened up an album on a classic song. But when we do it, people are going to be like, yeah, that reminds me of Tom Sawyer. And I'm like, but the two songs sound nothing alike, but people's ear go, I've heard that before. Like,
Yep. Especially if they're not musically trained ears. It's kind of
yes.
like, yeah.
I should have fought harder on that one, but
Well, you can tell Tom that Katie at Music Minnesota liked the No More Guns song better, and that's the one you had your opinion on. So
I will. Oh, and he does as well.
Does he?
Yeah, and yeah, he does as well. So it worked out. And yeah, and look, I never kind of go in there with a wrecking ball and say, oh, we're gonna have to change all this and that. I'm there to enhance, finish writing the song. Like I said, in most cases, the bridges there are no bridges when he may get bored of the song by the time a bridge needs to be written, and that's where I take over and I write the bridge and then kind of finish out the final structure of the song. But yeah, I never make a change drastically unless I feel it, where I'm like, we got to do something about this. So.
That's interesting. The fans had a lot of questions about your involvement. They were really concerned about, where you were allowed to put your input in. So they'll be happy to hear that you've got quite a bit of leverage there too. So that's fine.
But I use it wisely.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
I use it wisely.
Of course. Okay.
There's no ego when it comes to me adding or changing things. It's just like, it's either I see what you're going for and this is what we need to do to get there, or an instance like this where it's like we can't do that, and I'll find the answer, but that's not it.
Yeah, all for the sake of just composing the best stuff that you can.
Yeah,
so that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, one more question for you, and then I'll let you get back to it.
Hit me.
Another Reddit user, I'm not even going to try and pronounce their name, would like to know what you like about the style of the music that you've helped create with Angels and Airwaves, specifically within Lifeforms.
Okay, well, I'll kind of give a pre-answer to that because
Okay.
I know it's geared towards life form specifically. But honestly, I think what I'm most proud of is the fact that Dreamwalker was a definitive change in era, and I'm not saying just because that's the first album that I was a part of, but I also think it was the first time that Tom was really truly willing to say, I need to do things differently than I've done them, because he's written, I don't know, 100 songs, probably more, between Blink and Angels and Boxcar.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to fall into, I don't want to say a formula, but just a style. It's like, and there's a comfort in writing something that sounds like something else you've done that's successful, in which case he's got plenty in his back catalog, of course. But Dreamwalker really marked a period of maybe writing a song that could have gone on another Angels album, or even potentially a later Blink album, didn't seem satisfying. It's like, we need to do something else. But it did feel like a bit of a struggle at first, and there was a bit of discomfort kind of breaking out of that comfort zone. That's just the way life works. Not everybody is eager to, and I'm not eager to just jump out of my comfort zone generally, but musically, I like to constantly be expanding. I can't write a song that sounds like one of my other songs because I immediately think, what's the point? And I find it uninspiring. So when we first got together in a room and we both had guitars, or we were both playing something, I was very quick to be like, but that sounds like this other song, or those are the same chords as this other song. And honestly, most of the time I didn't realize it, so it wasn't even like it was it wasn't like it was something he was going for. It was just, hands go to a certain place, melody goes to a certain place, and there it is.
Yeah.
But like I said, there was a bit of push and pull there, whereas by the time we get to Lifeforms, it seemed that the idea of doing things differently from track to track was very comfortable. And that's why Lifeforms, I would say, is even more diverse than Dreamwalker, because the comfort was definitely there in terms of experimentation, and the gates had opened to seeing what else was out there. I mean, I think the only song that truly has its foot in the door of the past might be Rebel Girl, in terms of chord structure. It is what it is. CGF, he's written plenty of songs with that, but melodically it's a bit different, and there's some other nods to some Angel stuff, like the Bridge of Time Bomb, which would probably be one of the bridges I didn't write because it's more of a breakdown. It doesn't really go anywhere musically. It's kind of like kind of repeats the intro, but it has these accents that are very much like Dry Your Eyes from one of the Love albums. But the rest of it, I think, is very different, and it would be nearly impossible to say this song sounds like that one in terms of the Angels and Airwaves canon, if you will.
Sure. And all yet so cohesive at the same time. So just impressive that you're able to weave those all together in that way still.
No, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Well,
I should get on Reddit at some point because people, it's something I never look at. And perhaps I should.
I don't know. That's where I always field the diehard fans. Like they've always got some really good
So what do you
stuff there.
do? You go to reddit.com and then you type in Angels and Airwaves, or how does that work?
Yep, you've got your whole own subreddit there, and there's people pretty active in there.
All right, I'm gonna check that out. I'm gonna modernize myself, I guess.
Ooh, an anonymous entry. They'll have no idea. All right. Well, with that, I'll let you get back to it. I know you're busy. You got a show tonight, but really appreciate you making the time.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Are you going to the show?
Yes, I don't know if I'm working it or if I'm just going as a fan yet, but I will be there.
Okay.
That kind
Well,
of
regardless, say hello, and I hope you enjoy it.
betcha. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Sorry for rubbing my eyes. I've been awake for about an hour.
I'll edit that part out. There you go.
No, that's okay. Just put the skin softener on me. You know.
You got it.
Well, thank you very much.
You betcha. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you Friday.
You too. Thank you. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.